I started attending it in 1973 or 1974 with my cousin when it was in Evans, and then after I got out of the Army, it was somewhere around there, it moved to the new building, and I did become a member of Sunnyview Church of the Nazarene. Yeah.
Okay. And was there a time when you lived in the house behind the church?
Yes.
All right, how long were you there for?
I can't remember exactly. I would say less than 6 months, but I'm not. I'm not sure.
That's fine. Did you, now I understand you were not, would you agree that you were not the youth pastor of the church?
I was not formally youth pastor, but I was doing many of the duties that the youth pastor was. The youth pastor that was there before, there was no actual youth pastor when I was living there, but he had lived in that house.
All right. Did you do some teaching of the children while you were there?
I taught originally second grade Sunday school there, and then they wanted me to do the fifth grade, and I did that. And I sang in the choir, and I was over the volunteer cleaning crew.
Okay.
I was not janitor per se. I was not cleaning the building myself. I was directing those who were doing that.
All right. Thank you, sir. You've heard testimony that you were asked to leave the church in 1977, and did that in fact occur?
Yes.
Okay. You've heard testimony that you, even after you were asked to leave, you did come back a few times for choir practice. Did that happen?
Yes.
Okay. And just briefly, why did that happen, Mr. Pankey?
There were some people who supported me, and there were people who wanted to keep me there. And
Okay, thank you, sir. All right. Were you, so that, and then did there come a time when you got married?
Yes.
All right. I guess before we get to you getting married, let me ask you, where were you working in the late 70s? When you met Angela Hicks, where were you working?
I believe it was 1976. I was working for, I can't remember the name of it. It was a security guard firm.
All right. I think they said it was Colorado Detective Agency. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I guess.
All right. And did you in fact carry a gun for that job?
They required that I carry a .38 revolver.
Okay. In the course of your work for that company, did you ever fire that gun?
No.
All right. All right. And then talk about how you met Ms. Hicks.
I was watching. My assignment was watching over a factory that made cardboard, and they didn't have a formal sprinkler system in there, so they had a security guard there. It was really kind of boring guarding cardboard. You know, who's going to steal cardboard? So the nights were long, and I would bring school homework there, and I would do that. And I just got to talking to there were two dispatchers, Leslie and Angie, and I just got to talking to them over the phone, and it would end up, instead of calling in once an hour just to check in, we'd just talk.
All right. Did there come a time then when you and Ms. Hicks got married?
Yes.
When was that?
1978.
Okay. And then, did you have a son together?
Our son, Mark, who testified yesterday, whose birthday is today, happy birthday, Mark. He was born.
79?
Yes.
Thank you. Where did you and Ms. Hicks live when you were first married?
I think the house in Kersey was the first house we lived in.
Okay. The trailer in Kersey, trailer park in Kersey? Or was it a house?
I think it was a house. It was a farmhouse.
All right,
It was yellow, I think.
all right. I think there came a time when you did move to a trailer park, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Before you moved to the 10th Street house?
Yes.
Okay. Was there a time when you lived in Kersey when you fired a gun for target practice?
Yes.
All right, talk about that.
Angie was, I believe, in the house. She was pregnant, and I fired the gun outside, just trying to hit a wooden post, and I think she said, I had earmuffs and it was loud, and I think she was in the house, and I think she told me that the baby was jumping or something, so I stopped doing it.
All right. Did there come a time when you got rid of that gun?
Yes, I pawned it.
Okay. You heard Ms. Hicks talk about that, pawning it. I think she said she actually brought it to the pawn shop. I don't know, did she?
I don't think that's accurate. I think I did. If you pawn a gun, they want to see your driver's license. They want to know that you own that gun. There would be no reason for her to do it. I think I did it.
All right. In any event, she could have done it.
I don't think so, but
Okay. All right. So when you lived in Kersey, then where did you work?
I was a premix delivery driver for 7-Up.
All right. How long did you work at 7-Up for?
I don't remember exactly. It would have been either 78 or 79. I went to work for them. I thought it was 81 when I was fired, but I'm not exactly sure.
Okay. All right. And why were you fired, Mr. Pankey, if you recall?
I had there were a lot of reasons that led up to it, but actually I was fired. There was an argument between the lady who worked in the office, her boyfriend, and me.
Okay. Did it have anything to do with the union issue?
No, that had absolutely nothing to do with it.
Okay. Did there come a time when you brought a lawsuit against 7-Up?
Yes.
Okay. Did that have to do with the union issue?
Yes.
Okay. Did you win that suit?
Yes.
All right. And how much did you get paid for that?
Well, I believe the actual judgment was something like $20,000, but I got 15,000 plus.
Okay.
So
All right. You had an attorney. Did you have an attorney?
I was represented by the attorney for the National Labor Relation Board in the Teamsters Union.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Pankey, did you meet Russ Ross at 7-Up?
Yes, I did.
All right, tell the jury about your relationship with Russ Ross, please.
Well, Terry Sellison, who was manager before him, he and I had a good working relationship until John Gates, Officer John Gates, had bad-mouthed me to him. And after that, my relationship with Terry Sellison kind of went downhill. And I knew then that the Denver 7-Up was unionized, and I contacted the person over the union to start a union in Greeley 7-Up.
All right, so did you have what were your feelings toward Russ Ross, I guess, after you, while you were at 7-Up and after you left the company, what were your feelings toward him?
I thought he was a jerk.
Okay, fair enough. Did you feel that he was enough of a jerk that you would follow him around?
No.
Okay. Did you try to get any kind of, revenge against him after you left 7-Up?
Yes and no. When we were in the union battle, which went on for, I'm guessing, 8 months, at one point, Russ held me when another employee hit me, okay? And I felt really humiliated by that. But I won the lawsuit.
Okay, so my question was, did you, after you left 7-Up or after the lawsuit was over, were you trying to get revenge against Russ Ross?
No.
Once the lawsuit was over?
No.
Okay. Did you move on after that?
Yeah, I started Arenado.
Okay. So I guess my question is, did you harbor a grudge against Russ Ross?
I didn't like him, but there was nothing to do about it at that point.
Okay. So tell the jury then about Arenado. When did you start it? What did the company do?
Okay. Well, I think you've heard a lot about what it did and what it was about already. It was basically a shade-tree mechanic repair shop that sold cars that were repaired. I bought cars that were for pennies on the dollar that were totaled out by insurance companies under 1970s and 1980 laws and the way that they totaled cars then. And I made them runnable and sold them to the public as a licensed dealer.
All right, thank you, sir. I guess the Arenado didn't officially start until you moved to 10th Street, is that right?
Yeah.
All right, so tell the jury, when did you move to 10th Street, 6086 10th Street, Mr. Pankey? Approximately.
83.
That's fine. All right, and then we've seen the picture with the Arenado sign. Is that when you you officially started the company?
Yeah.
All right. And were you able to make a living repairing cars and reselling them?
I guess you could call it that, yeah.
All right. Well, you weren't getting rich?
No.
Okay. Some talk about a gentleman named Cliff Sharp, I believe, who lived next door. Did he help you repair cars at Arenado?
Yes.
Okay. Was he a particularly skilled repairman?
Very skilled.
Okay. All right. When you lived at the 10th Street house, Mr. Pankey, did you or any of your members of the family watch TV or listen to radio?
Yes.
All right. Was that kind of activity prohibited in the house?
No.
All right. What would you watch or listen to when you lived there, if you recall?
Well, I watched mainly the news. I can't remember that far back.
Okay.
On the radio, I listened to Southwest Radio Church regularly, and if there was an oldie station, I would have listened to old time rock and roll.
All right. Thank you, sir. And what was Southwest Radio Church?
What was Southwest Radio?
What was the station? What kind of information would they?
It would be on a Christian station.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Pankey. Did there come a time? Well, how long was Arenado like a functional enterprise?
Well, it started before Arenado. I mean, before I met Angie, there were times when I was rebuilding cars. I was doing it while we were living at the trailer on Road 47.5, and I did it formally on the 10th Street house. And I would say by June, July of '84, it was defunct.
Okay. So in Kersey then, you started sort of repairing cars and were you sort of selling them informally there, or were you?
Not at Kersey.
Okay. And then, but you started repairing cars when you lived there?
Well, you say Kersey, I said Road 47.5, the trailer.
The trailer, okay. Well, I thought, okay, where was that located?
The trailer?
Yeah.
Weld County Road 47.5.
Okay. All right. Did you start repairing cars when you lived there?
Yes.
And did you live there? Did you sell them?
Yes.
Okay.
But not as a licensed dealer, as a private party.
Okay. And then when you got to 10th Street, you had an actual business?
Yes.
All right.
Clody's had changed their rules that you had to be a licensed dealer to even get in the door to bid.
I see. All right. And that's where you got your cars from?
I would say 90% of them
All
are
right.
there.
All right. And you said Arenado sort of stopped operating in summer of '84. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Why did you stop operating the company at that time?
I ran out of money. I ran out of cars. I had bounced several checks with Clody's, and they wouldn't let me in the door.
Okay. In fact, there's been some discussion about, I guess, an incident that happened, I guess, on the 19th of December of '84, where in a bank, I guess there was some issue about the money in your account. I mean, were you running low on money, fall, winter of '84?
That's an understatement, yes.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Did there come a time then when the fence around the property was removed?
Yes, I took the dogs to either in the summer of '84, I don't know if it was Weld County or Loveland or Fort Collins, but it was a dog shelter, and told them that I could no longer afford to feed the dogs, and basically begged them to take them, and they did. And I don't remember which one it was. And then it was, I think through Thrifty Nickel or something, I sold the chain link fence. Then we had a new septic tank put in the summer of '84.
All right. Thank you, sir. After Arenado essentially shut down, what did you do to earn money?
There was a multi-level marketing thing called prepaid legal, and I started doing that, making cold phone calls and all.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Was there a time when there was a fire sort of around when Arenado, I guess, was still functioning, or was there a time when there was a fire of some kind?
There was a fire right next door at the Snyder house. I'm guessing it was, I don't know, June, July of '84.
Well, it was sometime after you moved in to 10th Street, right?
Yes.
Okay. And was there a car? Did you take possession of a car after that?
Yes.
What car did you take possession of after that fire?
I don't remember. I remember there was a car that was burnt, but I don't remember exactly what it was. But I took it to Anderson's.
All right. Was it your car or was it a Snyder car?
It was a Snyder car.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. In December of 1984, Mr. Pankey, did you have plans to travel to Big Bear, California?
Yes.
Okay. What were those plans, Mr. Pankey?
A month, 3 weeks, 2 months, I don't know, before December, there was a plan worked out with my parents that we would spend Christmas of '84 with my parents at Big Bear.
Okay. Now, you heard Ms. Hicks testify that the plan was to get the money from your parents to travel and then to pocket it, essentially. Did you hear that? Do you recall hearing that testimony?
I do recall it.
All right. Was that the plan?
The plan was that I would get 2 credit cards in the mail. One was an American Express, and then the other one was a gas credit card in the mail. And we would use those to drive to California. I had to get the natural gas turned on in the house so that the pipes wouldn't freeze. So all of this took time. The last vehicle that was on the lot was what used to be the Wrecker, which was a 1-ton truck, and the bank was going to repossess that, and they hadn't pulled it off. So, do you want me to explain what happened being arrested on the 19th?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. On the 19th, I called Alan Schultz at the bank, and I said, you know, you haven't gotten the wrecker out of here, and I want it off the property because I don't want any vestige or any appearance of Aaron Otto here on the lot. I don't want anybody coming to the house while we're gone. So he said, well, he couldn't get somebody then, and I said, well, I'm gonna have my neighbor pull it out to the road, and I'm just gonna park it down the street. And he says, you can't do that, and you could be arrested for, I don't know, something. And I said, well, I'm gonna do that. So I went to the bank, and I had a small check that needed to be cashed from prepaid legal. I went to the bank and I talked to Alan, and he didn't want to hire a truck right then to get the thing off get the wrecker off of my property. And I said, well, I'm going to move it, and he got all mad at me, and he refused to cash the check. And he said that I could get into felony stealing a vehicle, hiding a truck if I moved it someplace else. And I said, that's stupid, that's not going to happen. To make a long story short, he called the police, and I was arrested and charged with not Norbel Credit Union, but with harassing him. I believe it was disturbing the peace. And then I was like just fingerprinted and photographed and immediately released. And I went home, and the next day, about 1 o'clock, the mail came, and there were two credit cards, the American Express and then the gas credit card.
So this is December 20th, Mr. Pankey?
Yes, that would be December 20th, 1984, came in the mail. And what I did is I took the only car we had left, which was a white 1980 Toyota Corolla two-door, to a gas station down the road, and I gassed it up, and I got a 6-pack of Pepsi so that when we left early the next morning, I could drink it on the way to get my caffeine trip on the way to California.
All right. Thank you, sir. So this was not a sudden impulse decision to go to California then, is that right?
No, this was planned.
Okay. Did you, in fact, I think the word was dump, did you tell Ms. Hicks that you had dumped the dogs, or gotten rid of the dogs?
No, because months before they had been given to the pound.
All right. Was that because there was no fence to hold them?
That was because I couldn't afford to feed them, and there was no fence to hold them.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So what do you recall then about the night of December 20th, 1984?
On the night of December 20th, 1984, at some point in the evening, we were going to go, we put the little boy to bed early because we were going to get up early the next day, and we were going to go to bed earlier because we were going to get up 4 or 5 o'clock the next morning on December 21st. I was going to look at conditions outside, because in our driveway where the house was, to get to the road, I felt was more the problem early in the morning than once we were in the highway, because the highway would definitely be clear. And so I was looking out for weather conditions, like there wasn't much. I had obviously driven the car in and out that day, but I didn't know like what snowfall would fall during the evening or the night and all. And when we had snow like the week before or whenever, we didn't have the driveway plowed. So when the temperature was above freezing, it was mushy in the driveway and all. And with the rear wheel drive car, it could get stuck there. And so I was particularly looking for conditions there. And I saw two vehicles pull into the driveway. One was like a late model Chevy Nova 4-door sedan, but it was a cheap basic model, like you would see for taxi cabs or things like that. I knew that the Weld County Sheriff's Office had two what I would call misgreen Novas that they delivered papers in, and either in front of that car or behind it there was a Ford Courier pickup. It was light colored. I assumed it was light blue because the mid to late 70s Ford Courier pickups were light blue was a common color. It had a darker color right front fender, which I assume was primer color flat black. They both came in. Their lights went like towards my house and then over like towards Cliff Sharp's house. That's the next door neighbor to the I guess it'd be east. And then they pulled back, and then they pulled out onto 10th Street, and they were gone. And I didn't think anything more about that. I went to bed, no TV, no anything. Got up really early the next morning. We got the little boy in the car. Angie had packed the car, and we left at 4 or 5 in the morning to head to Big Bear Lake, California.
All right, thank you, sir. And did you use your Texaco credit card to get gas? Or maybe you'd already filled up the night before?
I had filled up the afternoon before,
Right.
And then...
Right. And then did you fill up during the trip at some point? Did you fill up again?
Yes.
All right. And there's been some discussion about how you also got groceries at the Texaco stations. Was that?
I got a 6-pack of Pepsi for me to drink. There was a note. You would have to know my dad. He was frugal. And there was a note with the 2 credit cards not to buy anything but gas to get there.
Okay. So you packed some food to bring with you, or Angie did?
I can't remember either way.
Okay.
I assume she packed food.
Okay, that's fine. So did you stay overnight, or did you drive straight through? You stay overnight in a rest area, or did you drive straight through?
No, we drove straight through. This was wintertime. It would have been cold in a rest area.
Okay.
We drove straight through.
Okay. And this was on the 21st?
Yes.
Okay. And then did you stay at your parents' home in Big Bear for a period of time?
We stayed there till December 26th, the day after Christmas.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. And did everything go okay in Big Bear? There's been some suggestion that you had an argument with your dad or something like that. Did that happen?
He was upset with me, and I was very humble. I'll put it that way. But there were no blow-up arguments.
All right. Was he upset about the credit card issue or something else?
He was upset that I didn't obey his instructions and that I had bought a 6-pack of Pepsi. That bothered him. But the bigger issue is that I wasn't making he held the mortgage on the house and I wasn't making house payments.
Okay. All right, thank you.
That
sir.
was the major issue. So he wanted a plan of action to where I was either making house payments or I got out of his house.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right, so then let me just clarify, Mr. Pankey. On the night of December 20th, 1984, did you drive to the Matthews home?
No, I didn't know who the Matthews were.
Did you follow Russ Ross? Were you driving first of all, were you driving a red or orange car that night?
I didn't have a red or orange car to drive. I only had a white Toyota. I was not following Russ Ross.
Okay. Right, so you weren't following Russ Ross. Were you following Jonelle Matthews around?
I didn't know who Jonelle Matthews was.
Okay.
I wasn't following her, no.
Okay. Did you ever lay a hand on Jonelle Matthews?
No.
Okay. When you drove home after Christmas, did you drive straight through again?
Yes.
All right. Tell the jury about any radio reports you would have listened to on the way home.
On the way home, it was like during the daytime. So the 5-year-old, Mark, the 5-year-old, was awake. Angie was awake. And so we were listening to the radio. When we got, I'm assuming in southern Colorado on the way home, there came a news report on the radio that there was a missing 13-year-old girl in Greeley, Colorado. And we were both like, oh, that's terrible. You know, that's people live in Greeley to not deal with stuff like that, you know.
Okay. So was that the first time you had heard about what happened, Jonelle Matthews' disappearance?
That's the first time I heard that there was a missing child.
All right. Did they even name the child at that point?
If they did, I didn't pick that up. What I picked up that there was a missing 13-year-old.
Okay. Did it later turn out that was it actually a 12-year-old?
Yes.
All right. All right. You heard Ms. Hicks testify that you asked her to go to Safeway and pull the papers from the previous week and to read the stories about the disappearance of Jonelle Matthews. Did you hear that testimony?
I heard it.
Okay. And did that happen?
No.
All right. Did you drive straight home? Is that your recollection?
We drove straight home.
All right. You've heard testimony that when you got home, you started digging in the front yard. Did that happen?
No.
Okay. Go ahead.
When we got home, I'm guessing it would have been around 11 p.m. We took the little boy from his car seat into his bed. We took the things that would be perishable out of the car, went in, we went to bed.
Right. Well, if you drove straight through, it would have been a long drive, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you wouldn't have stayed in a rest area in the middle of winter? Is that fair to say?
No. I mean, that would be crazy. You couldn't have rested. No. I was 33 years old. I could drive from Greeley to California straight through each way. No brainer.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. You've heard testimony that within a matter of a few days, you, I guess, towed a car to a remote area of the yard and lit the interior on fire?
I heard that.
Okay, and what's your response to that?
Didn't happen.
Okay. Well, you heard Mr. Anderson say that he recalled a car coming in that had some fire damage, right?
Yes,
All right, had you previously brought a car in that had fire damage?
yes.
Okay. I mean, did you have, when you had Arenado, and you've seen the photos, did you have cars of all, well, I guess, did you specialize in a particular model car?
Datsuns were my favorite. Datsuns were the ones I made money on. The rest of them, I traded dollars or lost. I was a dumb blonde. I wasn't a really good businessman, but the Datsun 210 and the Datsun 610 were very simply engineered. Great cars, they looked good, they ran good, good gas mileage, very efficient and all those stuff.
All right.
I bought them, I could buy them right. Toyotas were always more popular, so I could buy the Datsuns better, but I could sell them quick too.
All right. And did you have cars of all different colors on your lot?
Yes.
All right.
When you buy insurance claims, you don't pick the colors.
All right. So there were, at that time, there were perhaps some red cars on your lot, right?
Yes.
Okay. But none that you lit on fire.
No.
Okay. All right, Mr. Pankey, I want to bring you then to the morning of December 27th, 1984. Did there come a time when you had a conversation that morning?
This is the hard part because I raised my hand and I swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. It did not happen.
The conversation did not, what did not happen?
When you listen to the radio, the TV, everything, it was all about the Jonelle Matthews case. And there was talk that it was related to Sunnyview Church of the Nazarene. And I began a very bitter retaliation of words against Ross and the people of Sunnyview, Pastor Christie and all, who I hated. And the Bible says, be sure your sins will find you out. And the Bible says that when you roll a stone towards somebody else, it'll come back at you. And then years later, Angie lied and made up a whole bunch of stuff about me. The Bible says, make sure your sins will find you out. So I began a series of lies, and it got bigger and bigger over the years, and then in 2014, when my letters to the DA were returned on open, I just stopped talking about the Jonelle Matthews case and all. And when I was contacted in 2019 by Detective Cash, my first response is, I can't help you. What I would have to say may have nothing to do with anything. And as he kept talking, later twice in that interview, I said, my information might be real or imagined. And then I said, if you really want to come here and you really want to talk to me, I'd want to do a deal with my attorney. And because I didn't want all this bullshit to come out to the public. At that time, I had absolutely no idea that Angie was as bitter towards me as she was, and that just like I am a poor example of a Christian, and don't let who I am dissuade you against the fact that there is a real God and it is true. But I am proof that the Bible is true, and when it says that you start this rolling lie thing, it'll come back on you. So when Detective Cash called, I was trying to get out of it by saying at first, I probably can't tell you anything that's of value. Then telling him, my information would be real or imagined. I was trying to hint. And then I just went for a deal. And I had talked to Mr. Pack. I had told him all of this, and he had said, yeah, you need a deal. And so there was then a conversations between my Idaho attorney, Mr. Pack, and to try and get me a deal so that I didn't have to publicly humiliate myself with all these lies over the years, because I was just bitter against cops. At that point, until I was arrested, I had absolutely no idea that Angie was a scorned woman to the point that she was. I mean, I knew that she was bitter over a divorce, but I never imagined that she would say all the things that she said about me. So I was humiliated when Russ Ross held me in 7-Up and the other man hit me. And I spent a couple of hours in the basement jail area with my attorney, and I was praying, and he was talking to me about my testimony, and he was going through, and because over the years the lies got bigger and bigger and bigger, and Mr. Viorst was saying to me, because I would give certain things, and he'd say, well, that's a good answer, and then I'd say other things. He'd say, well, that's bullshit. Nobody's going to buy that. And I believe in God, and I believe we all spend eternity somewhere. I have done some good things in ministry, and I have served the Lord. But if you read the book of Job in the Bible, Job had been blessed by the Lord, but he was arrogant, and he went through a bunch of testing and all, and it came back on him, and then he was blessed more when he told the truth. And in the little jail cubicle before coming up here, I was praying and I was thinking, God, maybe I shouldn't testify at all. Maybe I shouldn't do that, because I'd be just telling more lies. And I had told so many lies over the years, I didn't know how you can, it's just, it has to make sense, and it all doesn't. And so the truth is that I made a lot of stuff up out of bitterness for things that happened to me at Sunnyview and for things that happened to me at 7-Up. And my revenge on them was to, and because I hated the police, it was all in one to say, I've got information that you want and you can't have it. It was a polite way of flipping them the bird. It was pure hatred on my part. I had never imagined that Angie would be as big as liar as I am. And that's the truth, okay? And I'm totally humiliated. I wanted to handle this in a lesser way. But as a Christian, I believe that we are living in the last days, and after this lifetime, there'll be 1,000 years, millennium. And to rule and reign with Christ in the millennium, you have to,
Counsel, I'm going to stop for a moment. I want a sidebar, please. All right, thank you, counsel. Mr. Gerst?
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, so Mr. Pankey, could you clarify your answer, please? Did you talk to your father-in-law that on the morning of the 27th, or did you not?
I did not.
Okay. So you previously testified that you did, and just so let's make this succinct, all right? Because we can't talk for too long. Why did you previously state that you did talk to your father-in-law?
I didn't state it today.
No, not today, on previous occasions. On previous occasions, why did you state that you did talk to your father-in-law?
I said it to keep the lies, keep the story going.
Okay. So then I guess I would need to, go ahead.
Like I said earlier, one lie leads to another, and when you explain why do you know something, that's what I said that.
Okay. And so, all right. And then just to clarify then, why did you previously say that you did talk to your father-in-law that morning? Right? You said previously in the television interview and on the Unfound podcast that you spoke to your father-in-law on the morning of the 27th, right?
Yes.
Why did you say that if it wasn't true?
I needed an explanation as to what conversations I had, and that came to my mind.
Okay. So I just want to clarify then, if you're saying that you stated untruthfully that you had talked to your father-in-law, are you saying that, and you're saying that there were you mentioned other lies that you told? I'm just trying to understand has everything you said today been true so far? Everything else?
You mean about working at Blackman's and all?
Well, Mr. Pankey, what I'm obviously most concerned about is whether you're at the Matthews home on December 20th of 1984.
Oh, I didn't know who the Matthews were. I wasn't at the Matthews home. I didn't know who they were.
Okay. So I guess I just need you to explain, why should the jury believe that when you're saying you previously made a statement about talking to Harold Hicks on the 27th that wasn't true?
I have always clearly stated that from December 20th to December 26th, I didn't know who the Matthews were.
Okay. And do you stand by that testimony today?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So that part is absolutely true. The subterfuge starts on December 27th.
Okay. All right. So you did not talk to your father-in-law on the morning of December 27th?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Did you, in your mind, after you heard about what happened to Ms. Matthews, did you have a thought about what might have transpired? Or where? Well, all right. We'll come back to that. Did there come a time, Mr. Pankey, when you met with Captain Statler and Agent Lyons at Greeley Police Department?
Yes.
Okay. And why did you go to Greeley Police Department to meet with them?
Well, the basic reason is because I was doing this thing of like, to get even with them, I know something you don't know, to kind of, I don't know, it was my way of getting even with them. But in fact, there were some people in there that had made statements in the 1976-77 period that would be considered racial separatism today, okay? And I truly thought, by some of the things that were taught at that church and some of the things that were going on, that there that putting a Hispanic girl in her place could have happened, and it could have gotten out of control. Now that I truly thought could happen.
Okay. So when you went to talk to Agent Lyons and to Captain Statler, you told them that you had a pastoral privilege?
Well, that goes back to the Steve Adams case.
Okay, what happened there?
Okay, Steve, this was on Weld County Road 47 and a half, about 1981. Steve Adams and I were going through a book, a book on the book of Revelation, as well as the Bible on the book of Revelation, regarding end times and all. And I was teaching them like about the 1,000 years, the millennium and all. And he told me that the Weld County Sheriff's Office had contacted him, and that he was a suspect in a house in Evans that a $20,000 rare coin collection was stolen from. And I said to Steve Adams, I said, did you know those people? And he said, oh yes, and that he and another man had been shown the coin, the coin collection.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pankey. Did there come a time then when the pastoral privilege came into play on that case?
Yes.
How did the pastoral privilege come into play, Mr. Pankey?
I said to Steve Adams, were you in that house when nobody else was there? And he said yes, and I threw up my hands and I said, I don't want to hear anymore. And later in my conversations with the detective with the Weld County Sheriff's Office, the detective wanted me to wear a wire and to entrap him. Steve Adams was a crippled man, and I didn't want to do that. And he wanted me to testify against him. And I refused to. I hired Don Janklow, the attorney, and Stan Peake agreed that I wouldn't be forced to testify because of pastoral privilege.
All right, so you had previously exercised what you believed was a pastoral privilege, is that right?
Yes.
All right. Well, was there a pastoral privilege applicable to the disappearance of Ms. Matthews?
No.
Okay.
But I didn't know if the two vehicles pulling in the driveway had anything to do with the Jonelle Matthews thing and all. I didn't trust the Weld County Sheriff. I didn't trust the Greeley Police. And that was my thoughts after the 26th, on the 27th, 28th, when I returned.
All right. Did you ever come to believe that you had any knowledge or information about where Ms. Matthews' body might be?
Not in phase 1 or 2, but in phase 3 and 4, I thought that it could possibly be in a septic tank on the New Raymer property that I had formerly owned.
What are you calling phases 1, 2, and 3?
Well, I would call phase 1 like December 27th, 28th, 1984 through talking to Agent Lyons. And I would consider what he had told, after he had told me, because I felt really good then, between then and like 1992, phase 2. And then when I talked to Mark Lockwood in 92, through about 2009, I would consider that as phase 3.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. All right, so when you went to the Greeley Police Department then in January of 1985, were you straightforward with them at that time?
No, I was saying to them, I told them that I had had a conversation, which I didn't have, but I was being genuinely truthful when I said I thought that they should look into the church. I thought that they should look into her trusted adults.
Okay.
That's from my experience at Sunnyview Church of the Nazarene.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, did there come a time when you moved out of Greeley?
Yes,
When was that?
it would have been late either 1986 or early 1987, probably more likely early 1987, but I'm not totally sure.
All right, was Angela pregnant at that time?
Yes,
All right. All right, and where did you move to?
McAllen, Texas.
All right. And then you bounced around after that
Right,
for a while
right.
and ended up in, where did you end up?
Idaho.
All right. Is that where you currently consider home?
I've lived there for 33 years.
All right.
Yes.
All right, thank you, sir. Your Honor, this might be a good time for the mid-afternoon break, if that's okay.
Certainly. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if I could have you back in the jury room, please, at quarter after. Ask you again that you not discuss this case with anyone, that you